It's one of the most famous titles in the British monarchy and named after Scotland's capital city. But why does it keep going extinct after no more than 2 generations, and why is it already doomed to oblivion again? This is the story of all the Dukes of Edinburgh and of 300 years of royal history. The first man on our list today is Prince Frederick of Wales, the eldest son of the future George II and his wife Caroline of Ansbach. They only became king and queen in 1727. Born in Hanover in 1707, Frederick was left behind there after his grandfather George I became King of Great Britain and Ireland in 1714, and most of the rest of his family moved to England. Whilst still in Hanover, he was made the Duke of Edinburgh in 1726. At the same time, his 5-year-old brother, who he'd never met, was being made Duke of Cumberland. He was only brought to the kingdom he was meant to inherit in December 1728, and was quickly made Prince of Wales in January 1729, rendering his ducal title one of his subsidiary titles and not something he was commonly known by. In keeping with most of the Hanoverian heirs to the throne, he had a terrible relationship with his parents, who he barely knew by this point, and his mother confirmed her hatred of him on her deathbed in 1737. See my video about her demise for more details. Frederick loved the wife his father had chosen for him, though, who was Princess Augusta of Saxe-Gotha, and who he wed in 1736. Together they had 9 children, including the future George III. Frederick is one of those princes of Wales who never became king. I have a video about this group which I'll leave linked for you, and in his case it was because he died in March 1751. The legend is that his demise at the age of 44 was the result of being hit by a cricket or tennis ball. All we know for sure is that he suffered from a violent pain in his side for 2 weeks before his death, along with a fever and fainting spells. He was buried in Henry VII's chapel in Westminster Abbey, where so many of the Hanoverians lie. The title Duke of Edinburgh was inherited by his eldest son, Prince George, born in 1738. Just a few weeks later, the boy's grandfather, George I, created this new heir apparent, the Prince of Wales, and so once again, the Duke of Edinburgh title became a subsidiary title which George was not typically known by. On the 25th of October 1760, he acceded to the throne as George III, and at that point all his previous titles merged with the crown, including the Dukedom of Edinburgh. This is standard practice for a monarch. You can hold any number of titles while you're a more junior member of the family, but once you're the boss, you're only the king or queen. There's no such thing as a subsidiary title for you in the British peerage, though you can hold titles in other countries. For instance, Queen Victoria was also Empress of India, and the first 4 Georges were also electors of Hanover. Now, I haven't the time to give you a full biography of George III's long life, but here are the highlights and lowlights. He married Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz in 1761, had 15 children by her, of whom 13 survived childhood, and his reign saw Britain lose control of the American colonies during the American Revolution and abolished slavery in 1807. The king suffered serious mental breakdowns starting in the 1780s, the last of which rendered him permanently incapable of ruling and led to the establishment of the regency under his son, the future George IV, in 1811. We aren't quite sure what his ailment was, but bipolar disorder and porphyria are popular diagnoses, and he is known to history as the Mad King or Mad King George. He died in 1820 and is, to this day, the longest reigning king in British history. He is buried in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. What had happened to his Duke of Edinburgh title, though? Due to the fact that George's lower titles had merged with the crown upon his accession, they were available to be redistributed however he saw fit, and this meant that he could give out the Duke of Edinburgh title to someone new if he chose to. And he did. The dukedom was recreated in November 1764 to mark the 21st birthday of his little brother, Prince William Henry, born in 1743, but this time it was merged with the title the Duke of Gloucester too, the only time this has been done to date. As English titles are invariably preferred to Scottish, Irish or Welsh ones if they are of the same rank, the prince was known as the Duke of Gloucester and Edinburgh rather than the other way around, or sometimes just as the Duke of Gloucester. Before we hear how this Duke of Edinburgh's life panned out, please like, hype and comment on the video as this really helps it to do better, and subscribe to the channel with the notification bell on to stay up to date with my uploads. It's all totally free, but if you're already subscribed, maybe check your notification status, as I get people telling me sometimes that YouTube isn't notifying them even though it should be. You might also like to join as a channel member for badges next to your name in the comments and members-only posts, and you can also find me on patreon.com/historycalling, where I release bonus material like patron-only podcasts every week. For free bonus material, sign up to my newsletter on my website, historycallingofficial.com, and you'll also receive 2 complimentary downloads right away. Make sure to check, though, that the newsletter isn't going to your junk email. On the 6th of September 1766, Prince William Henry secretly married the illegitimate Maria Walpole, who was already the widow of the 2nd Earl Waldegrave, and who was 7 years older than her royal husband and had 3 children. The marriage wasn't terribly popular with George III, but he did give Maria a pension of £5,000 out of Irish revenues, and thought it was better his brother had a wife rather than a mistress. Still, Maria only admitted to the marriage to her father in 1772, and George III had an inquiry held into its validity that same year, as the chaplain, and only witness to it, had died. This found in the Gloucester/Edinburgh's favour just before the birth of their first child, a daughter called Sophia Matilda, at the end of May 1773. 2 more children followed, a short-lived daughter called Caroline in 1774, and a son called Prince William Frederick, who was born in Rome in January 1776, as the family were by then travelling for the sake of Prince William Henry's health. George III had refused to ask Parliament for more money for his brother and his family, and had barred the couple and their children from his presence. However, after the Duke of Gloucester and Edinburgh had a medical crisis in 1777, the king softened, allowing the family to come back to England and providing a financial settlement for them. The Duke spent the rest of his life working in the military, carrying out philanthropic duties, and travelling on the continent to save money and also for health reasons. His marriage to Maria gradually disintegrated, though. He cheated on her with her lady-in-waiting, Lady Almeria Carpenter, by whom he had a daughter, and the royal couple were essentially separated by the early 1790s, with the Duke sometimes preventing the Duchess seeing their children. He died on the 25th of August 1805 and was buried in St George's Chapel, Windsor. The double dukedom of Gloucester and Edinburgh now descended to William Henry's only legitimate son, Prince William Frederick, the man born in Rome in 1776. The second Duke of the second creation, because every time a title is reissued you start the numbering process again, was known as Silly Billy due to his lack of academic acumen, though he attended Trinity College, Cambridge, and was awarded degrees in 1790 and 1796, but I doubt he really earned those accolades. He went into the army at the age of 13, as many royals do, though they are a good bit older nowadays, and was promoted through the ranks. This was no doubt due to his connections, though, rather than his merit, as A.W. Purdue, writing in the Oxford Dictionary of National Biography, has described him as an enthusiastic and brave, if not terribly professional, soldier. After failing to convince the much younger Princess Charlotte of Wales, heiress to the throne no less, to marry him, he instead married his cousin, Princess Mary, in 1816, by whom he had no children, which is hardly surprising as Mary turned 40 that year. William Frederick was known for being pompous and full of himself due to his status, but he was against slavery and he was pro-Catholic emancipation. He died in 1834 and was buried in St George's Chapel. With no son to succeed him, the dukedoms of Gloucester and Edinburgh now became extinct once more. We now jump ahead to the Victorian era. In 1844, Queen Victoria gave birth to her second son by her husband, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, who was named Prince Alfred. An intelligent child, he joined the Navy at the age of 14 and was immediately sent to sea, becoming very well travelled in the course of his career. In 1862, when he was just 18 years old, the Greeks voted for him to become their new king after they deposed the old one, but his election was not allowed as it contravened the terms of the London Protocol of 1830, and instead the crown went to the second son of the future King of Denmark. The following year, Alfred's older brother, the future Edward VII, renounced his claim on the Duchy of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, so that Alfred eventually became its duke in 1893 when their uncle died. But that is still far in the future. On his mother's birthday in 1866, he was made Duke of Edinburgh, and he continued with his naval career for many years, travelling the world and almost being murdered in Sydney in 1868 by a Fenian sympathiser. In 1874, he married the Russian Grand Duchess Marie Alexandrovna, daughter of Tsar Alexander II, in St. Petersburg. They had one son, named Alfred after his father and born in 1874, plus 4 daughters: Marie, born in 1875, Victoria, born in 1876, Alexandra, born in 1878, and Beatrice, born in 1884. After that, Alfred and his wife's marriage fell apart. When Alfred Sr. became the Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, he resided between his duchy and his London residence, but tragedy struck the family in 1899. Apparently distressed that his marriage to a commoner was not accepted within the royal family and that his mother insisted the union be annulled, young Alfred supposedly unalived himself, though there are various stories about his cause of death and the whole thing is a bit murky, with family members claiming things like a breakdown in his health. The following year, Alfred Sr. died too of throat and tongue cancer near Coburg. He was buried in his duchy. Having outlived his only son, the title of Duke of Edinburgh now went extinct once more. It was created yet again in 1947 by George VI, who granted it to perhaps the most famous holder of it so far, the man born as Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark in 1921, and who was then about to marry George's daughter, Princess Elizabeth, better known as Elizabeth II. As his family had been booted out of Greece when he was a baby, and Philip had surrendered any nominal claim on his birth titles before the marriage, taking the surname Mountbatten, the only titles he had by the time of his wedding were those granted to him in the British peerage, and so unlike previous holders, he was widely known by his Scottish title, particularly as he was not made a prince again until 1957, though he did have an HRH from the moment he became Duke of Edinburgh. He showed his attachment to this title by naming an award scheme for young people after it, the Duke of Edinburgh Award, which you can do at bronze, silver or gold level. Some of my friends did some of these awards at school, but as I didn't fancy wild camping in the Mourne Mountains here in Northern Ireland and having to pee in a river, I did not. I probably don't need to tell you much about Philip's life, given how recent an historical figure he is and how famous. Suffice it to say that prior to Elizabeth's succession in 1952, he worked in the Navy and he had fought for Britain in World War II, despite having numerous Nazis in his family. After his wife's succession, he left his job and dedicated himself to life as her consort, which was quite a wrench for him as he really loved that naval job. Known for being quite blunt in conversation, he told my friend who was receiving her Gold Duke of Ed award from him to watch out for the bombs when she came back to Northern Ireland. He and Queen Elizabeth had 4 children: Charles, Anne, Andrew and Edward. Philip died in 2021 at the age of 99 and was buried in St George's Chapel at Windsor. You may not even realise that the next holder of the title Duke of Edinburgh held it, but he did. I'm speaking about the current king, Charles III, who was born in 1948. Again, I doubt you need much of a biography of such a well-known figure, but in short, Charles joined the Royal Air Force, then the Navy, between 1969 and 1977, and married Lady Diana Spencer in 1981. They had 2 sons together, Princes William and Harry, but after a difficult marriage marred by infidelity on both sides and excessive press intrusion, the pair separated in 1992. Their divorce was finalised in 1996, and Diana, Princess of Wales, then died in a car crash in Paris the following year, aged only 36. Known for his environmental work and interests, which he was championing long before they were fashionable, and for establishing the Prince's Trust, now the King's Trust, to help young people get qualifications and jobs, Charles remarried to his long-term partner Camilla Parker Bowles in 2005, and he inherited the title of Duke of Edinburgh along with his father's other subsidiary titles upon Philip's death in 2021. As he was then the Prince of Wales, which is a superior title, not to mention Duke of Cornwall and Rothesay, two more superior titles including a Scottish dukedom, Charles was never known as the Duke of Edinburgh, and when he became king in September 2022 upon the death of Elizabeth II, the title once again merged with the crown and became extinct. His reign has been quite bumpy so far, thanks to a severe breakdown in relations with Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, the king and his other daughter-in-law, Princess Catherine's cancer diagnoses, and the ongoing scandal of his brother Andrew's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, which led Charles to take the incredibly unusual step of stripping Andrew of all of his titles in late 2025. It remains to be seen how the Sussex and Andrew situations are going to play out and how Charles will deal with them and attempt to protect the monarchy from further harm. I'll leave my videos looking at whether the Sussexes could lose their titles and also reviewing a biography of Andrew and his ex-wife linked below for you. We now come to the current holder of the title, Prince Edward, youngest brother of King Charles. Born in 1964, he had a short career in the Royal Marines before a job working in media. Very unusually, he was not made a duke upon his marriage to Sophie Rhys-Jones in 1999, instead being created the Earl of Wessex. The understanding, though, was that he would be given his father's Duke of Edinburgh title in due course. He and Sophie have two children, Lady Louise Mountbatten Windsor and James, who was born Viscount Severn but who is now the Earl of Wessex himself. After a series of embarrassing scandals, including Edward's production company filming Prince William at university in St Andrews in 2001, despite a media agreement to leave him alone, a sting operation against the then Countess of Wessex in 2002, in which she was caught making indiscreet remarks to an undercover journalist, and general accusations that the couple were coasting on their royal connections, the pair gave up their careers in media and dedicated themselves to being full-time royals. As we've heard, Edward's father died in 2021 and the Duke of Edinburgh title went to Prince Charles, then merged with the crown again in 2022. The king granted it to his brother as a birthday present in 2023. Unlike previous grants, though, the title was given as a life peerage, not a hereditary title, and this means that James, Earl of Wessex, cannot inherit it. It is therefore doomed to become extinct again upon Edward's death. So there you have it. Those are the stories of all the men who have been Duke of Edinburgh over the past 300 years. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know below which of them is your favourite and why, and for more videos looking at the history of specific titles, try one of these options next. Whatever you choose, please enjoy, and until next time, keep learning.